was answered.
Same day, hour apart. They better do me.
It's not muted.
Okay, Counselor, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order. Has roll call been done? I'm guessing it
Roll call's
has
been
been.
taken.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind the committee and our viewing public of a few procedural rules for our virtual meetings in operating as efficiently as possible. All members will be muted for the meeting. To reduce feedback, all web cameras for committee members shall be turned on to ensure and track quorum. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should the need to answer questions of members of committee arise. Any member of committee should indicate they wish to speak by pressing the raised hand button in the participants list screen. Clerk staff will lower the hand when you have been recognized by the chair for your speaking opportunity. In the event a connection service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the committee, we will recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All members of committee participating via online video conference will vote using eScribe, and the clerk will announce the vote results. Members of the public who registered as delegates are now able to take part electronically via webcam or by telephone. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Are there any items for consideration or consent that you wish to separate for discussion purposes? Councillor Carpenter.
5.11, please.
Are there any others? Mayor Davis.
5.1.2, the online payment options.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder for all the items of consent that are not separated? Moved by Councillor Atlee, second by Councillor Van Tilburg. Questions, comments? Seeing, we'll call the vote. Are we using eScribe or not?
Yep, I'm just going to confirm the items that are subject to the vote. So the items that are subject to the vote are as follows. 5.2.1, 2020 Development Charges Reserve Fund Continuity Report. 5.2.2, Treasurer's 2020 Statement for Cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve Fund. And 5.2.3, the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Mark me in the affirmative.
Separation of items for consideration and consent for discussion purposes carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis, Councillor Martin, Councillor Atlee, Councillor Carpenter, and Councillor Van Tilburg.
Okay, 5.1.1, Councillor Carpenter, you have the floor.
Thank you. To staff, I noticed that we got funding by the province that far exceeded our shortfall in the COVID money. So the $5,043,300, and then that was put back into, from what you're telling us, 3.795 million back into the Casino Legacy Reserve. Did that replace the money that we borrowed from the Casino Legacy Reserve?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we didn't actually borrow any funds from the casino reserve. What council did approve last fall was a recommendation from this committee to establish some mitigation measures that we could implement to assist us in getting through the shortfall in casino revenues resulting from the closure. So items like funding some of our grant programs, some transfers to our other reserves, our cultural and built heritage program. There was a full suite of mitigation measures that were put
that
on
the-
hold. So what this is doing is replacing that
So
funding that was
we're not doing
lost.
we're not doing any mitigation measures now. We're going forward as if we were fully funded in the casino.
We are, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, staff will be bringing forward a report to the next meeting in May, which outlines what the casino reserve funds now look like, that we were able to replenish some of those. We'll be forecasting what a potential closure might look like into 2022 and whether or not all of those mitigation options still need to remain or if some of those can be relaxed.
Okay, so but the 3.79 is put there is what is that for? For what we are committed to that we have contracts to?
That represents the differential. We budget each year to receive $5 million in casino funds annually. We received approximately 1.2 million from the casino in 2020, and the 3.8 is bringing us up back up to our budgeted contribution.
Okay, and the gapping savings that we had, we didn't use that for reducing the budget this year. We've kept it here, but we have a surplus now, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did see a significant gapping surplus in 2020. Some of the gapping that was seen in some of those COVID-specific areas, transit, parking, Parks and Rec, Sanderson, as a result of employees being placed on temporary leave. That gapping is shown in those areas. The remaining gapping is gapping seen across the organization. And that's largely a result of eliminating summer student hirings in 2020 in those non-COVID areas, as well as just a delay in being able to hire for vacancies during the pandemic.
Okay,
So we still have our base budget in 2021. So the budgeted gapping savings contained within the 2021 budget is still in the $2.1 million range.
Okay.
And
Thank
this represents what's over and above that was achieved as part of the 2020.
But we're still putting money in the contingency reserve fund too, are we not?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the contingency reserve is funded just through annual surplus. There's no annual contribution to that. So when the numbers, final audited numbers, are presented in June, and if they are similar to what's being presented here, any of that remaining surplus, staff will be making a recommendation that we do use that to top up the contingency reserve.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Utley, second by Councillor Carpenter. Seeing nothing further, we'll call the question.
And item 5.1.1, 2020 preliminary year-end variance report carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor: Mayor Davis, Councillor Martin, Councillor Utley, Councillor Carpenter, and Councillor Van Tilburg.
Okay, Mayor Davis, you asked for separation on 5.1.2. Did you want to move it to put it on the floor?
Yes.
And a seconder, Councillor Van Tilburg. Thank you. You have the floor, Mayor Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Martin. So Joelle, maybe I was slow off the mark when I read this, but I was having trouble understanding. Okay, this report tells us we're going to expand the use of credit cards, right, for payment, basically.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yes, it sets out a plan on how we plan to move forward with that in the future. Yes.
Right, and there is, of course, a fee of like 2% or thereabouts when a vendor uses credit cards. So the one thing I found a bit confusing is, so when would someone, what will someone be able to use credit cards for? And when will they have to pay that extra fee of, what is it, 2% or?
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Chair, with the solution that's being proposed through this report which is to shift from our third-party payment provider in most cases to the use of Moneris.
Yeah.
There still would be, so there is a fee in all cases, but with Moneris, the fee can still be passed along to the customer in payments that are included in the service fee program. So payments for that apply to the city would be utilities that we currently use our online third-party provider for, fines, which would include parking tickets, which we use that third-party payment provider for. And eventually down the road, if we were to consider the property taxes, fines, taxes, utility payments can still be paid online by the customer, where the service fee can be pushed to the customer to absorb that fee.
Okay, still a bit confused. So let's do it this way. First of all, when will this be in place? Let's say for taxes. Let's pick taxes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So taxes, right now we accept no credit card payments for.
Right.
We are probably a bit down the road before we will even consider accepting credit card payments for taxes. Most municipalities do not, but
Right.
we will consider this as part of the implementation of our new system. And if we do that, the service fee will not be absorbed by the municipality. It would be absorbed by the customer.
So let's keep it simple. Let's say if I'm doing taxes, so when I fill it out, will I see that 2% charge, which could be, significant. If you're paying, let's say your tax payment is $1,000, you're going to be paying $20. Is that right? Or
That's
thereabouts?
correct.
All right. And so right now they can use, or will be able to use shortly, credit cards for utilities.
Currently, we do allow,
Yeah.
currently our third-party online payment provider allows customers to pay the utility with credit card. We don't
Right.
accept in-person credit card payments for utilities. The
Right.
only option is online. That will continue to be the only option. And the service fee in that situation will still be passed along to the customer and not
And that's-
absorbed by the city.
And I never paid by credit card through the city. So are you told when you make your payment, you got a service charge of 2.04%?
Yes, it's actually, I believe it's higher than that through our current
Okay.
online payment provider. The 2.04% is what our average fee is to accept credit cards in person.
Okay.
For services, we allow credit cards. Utilities, we do not in person.
When you're doing direct payment through your bank account online, there's no service charge, right?
That's correct.
Okay. If you're going to can you pay it by a email money order?
I don't believe so. I may defer that question to Wanda, but I'm not aware
Okay.
that that is an option.
Right now, the utilities, you can come in, you can pay by cash or check, or you can mail a check,
Or
you can
debit.
or you can go through your online bank account and you can do that online transfer, which is the easiest, simplest thing. And you'll be able, and you can pay with credit cards, but there's a fee, but the fee will be less once we move to Moneris.
Correct.
So I got that. And maybe sometime soon for taxes, but you're going to get a big service charge fee for that.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councilor Carpenter.
Yeah, thanks. The mayor covered most of it, but I got a few more questions. So to be clear, the services that are being paid for now with no charge, that's not going to change.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there are a handful of other items that we currently do use our third party payment provider for. I believe dog licenses is one, and purchasing tender documents. These are quite minor. At the point where we would leave our current third party payment provider and instead use Moneris, as the online payment provider, we would no longer be able to pass that fee along to the customer. So in situations like that, when we're about to roll out into that, what we would do is look at adjusting the fees and charges for those services so that they could be increased, in that there would be no budget impact to the city. The fee would increase for the ability to be able to accept credit cards for that service.
Okay, the reason I asked that question is I've been busy encouraging my constituents to pay their taxes monthly to avoid these large payments, because we don't charge extra for that. And it's a good service, and it helps us guarantee the money. So that's not going to change.
Correct. That's not changing.
Good. I don't want to be going back and telling them, wait a minute, we're going to change it. All right. Now, when I go to a restaurant and I buy my dinner, I can pay by credit card or I can pay by cash. The bill doesn't change. How do we tell our customers that this is customer service if we're going to charge them more to pay? And isn't it to our advantage to have them more options for them to pay so that they will pay? Parking tickets being an example.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair. So other than the services where we can pass on the fee, which are typically those services like taxes and utilities and fines, where these are large amounts, the fee, for the fee would have a significant impact on the city's budget if we were to absorb that. That was the premise for the credit card companies to participate in this service fee program, which would allow that to go to the customers. But it's only in those very specific circumstances. For the majority of the services that the public would purchase from the city, as we move towards this, what that would do is there would be one fee, whether you paid in cash, whether you paid in debit, whether you paid at the counter, whether you paid online. We would streamline that so that if the fee for the service is $30, it's $30, whether you're doing that from your living room or coming into City Hall to pay cash or doing that payment online.
Now, if you've got set up automatic debit paying your bills, that's not going to change though.
No, this is not changing any of our current processes with respect to utilities or taxes and the payment methods that are currently available to customers. Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I think I just got my question answered in that last little bit. So you're going to wrap up is it fee based by the service that's being delivered? Is like we will have a fee, but it may be a different fee by each service, and then that fee will be standardized no matter how you pay? Or is it going to be the same fee across the board and it doesn't matter how you pay?
Through Mr. Chair. So for most services, what we will strive to do as we continue to roll this out is it would be the same fee for a service. So if I want to buy a dog license, whether I come to the counter and pay cash or debit or credit card there, or I pay credit card from home, whatever means I use to pay, the fee will be standardized. Only in those cases where we can pass the fee along to the customer. And those would be situations where we're not accepting that card in person. Your only option is to use that card online to pay for that, for those fines, utilities, tax items. That would be the only situation where an additional cost would be borne by the customer.
Oh, okay. So I don't use my credit card for stuff like this. So you're right now, it is 10 cents on a digital, $6 on a phone, and $12 by the person, but we don't always take it.
Oh, through Mr. Chair, if you're referring to this chart that's on page 6 of the report or 14 of the agenda.
Or is that a standard?
That's just an industry-wide standard of what the estimated cost is for customer contact, whether that's digital, over the phone, and in person. And what that was just intending to show is that in-person transactions cost significantly more, and that in being able to divert some of our in-person payments to online, we expect there to be some efficiencies to be gained in doing so.
All right, because the only complaints that I had received previous to people trying to pay via credit card was when the water bills came in higher than they had expected. And then they went and were using the credit card, and then that's when I discovered about the $6 fee. So I know we've been adding a fee on our utility bill.
To pay your utility bill online, and that's not going to change as we go through this, there is a convenience fee that the customer does pay, because the only method they can do that is online, and that will continue to apply in the case of utilities.
And how come the difference? Because and the reason I'm asking is that we're using the same software, and it would appear, I believe we're using the same company right now that the hydro company's using, and they're not passing on that fee to the customer. I'm assuming they're eating it or whatever. And that's a hard sell back and forth when people were used to one bill. Two, when they get behind, they're often behind on both, and are doing the same thing when they're going to hydro, and then they're going to us and saying, hey, how come you dinged us more money? And I was asked this question.
Through Mr. Chair, it would be quite significant on the rate budget for the city to open up to be able to accept credit cards and include the service fee for that in the rates for people to be able to pay by credit cards. Our annual water and wastewater revenues currently metered revenues are in the $45 million range. It's the second highest revenue stream of the city. So for us to open that up where people could be able to pay by credit card in person would have a significant impact on those rates.
Oh, I understand that. And so we won't be doing that at all then under the new system?
I'm going to ask Wanda just to join in, just to make sure. But I believe what we would see in the future is we would still move to only allowing credit card payments for utilities online in card absent situations, and the convenience fee for that would still be passed along to the customer. Is that correct, Wanda?
Through the chair, yes, it is. The only opportunity to pay your water bill or your taxes with your credit card is in a card absent situation. So if for whatever reason you want to make that payment from home, you have that opportunity. That doesn't negate any other payment form that you might want to make. If you want to come in and pay for your taxes, you're still welcome to do so. You can't pay with your credit card, and you're paying exactly just the amount that of your taxes that are outstanding. It's just creating just another form or ability for somebody to pay. The option is there for the taking, but it comes at that cost.
Well, I just wanted to fully understand this. Like I pay cash, so I come in, I pay, but I know that people over the last probably since COVID, more are using their credit cards for sustainability issues that they probably never did before, so I want to be able to answer these questions as accurately as possible if they take advantage of what we're offering. So thank you.
Seeing no other raised hands, I'll just comment. I think it's an excellent report. It's quite common for retailers of large ticket items to either refuse to use credit cards because of the fee, or to expect the customer to pay the credit card fee. So I think this is very appropriate. And with that, we'll call the question.
Item 5.1.2, online payment options carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis. Did someone miss their vote here?
It never came up on my screen. I was waiting for it to come up, and then the results came up.
Okay, give me one. So would you like to vote in the affirmative, Counselor Martin?
Yes, I would.
Okay, sorry about that. So those voting in favor, Counselor Martin, Mayor Davis, Counselor Utley, Counselor Carpenter, and Counselor Van Tilburg.
Okay, that's all the items that were separated. We have no resolutions for today's meeting. And one notice of motion. Counselor Carpenter, if you could read the title, please.
Thank you. The notice of motion is multi-year budget process.
Thank you. Questions? Are there any questions from members of council?